huge gap. What's going on, kid family? Welcome back to the channel. On today's video, guys, we are going to be talking about how to check your valves, how to make sure they are sealing properly in the cylinder into the combustion chamber. Very simple process. All you're really going to need is just some plain old water. So if you are interested in finding this information out, make sure you keep watching. Alright guys, so I already removed the cams from the cylinder head. As you can see, the only thing left are the valve springs and retainers and the valves. And this is how you want to test the cylinder head and cylinder valves for any leakage. You want to make sure you remove your cams, because the cams, even though you're in top dead center, sometimes these cams have overlapping valve lobes, where this engine definitely did. Cylinder 1 on top dead center, both intake and exhaust valves were still open, as you can see on some of these pictures that I can put right here. That's a common thing. So in order to make sure your cylinder valves really seal properly, seat properly, you want to make sure your camshafts are out of the motor, so the camshaft is not depressing on the spring. So once you have that accomplished, you want to just take some warm water, and we're using warm water because it's more viscous. And what we're pretty much going to be doing is pouring it in top of the cylinders and watching either the exhaust side or the intake side for leaks. That way it'll clearly tell us which valves are leaking, whether it's the intake or the exhaust, and exactly on which cylinder. You can also pour the water in through the exhaust port or the intake port and examine any leaks from the cylinder portion right here in the combustion chamber. Now, when you do this, just make sure you put your spark plugs in so the water doesn't leak. That's something we have to do right now. Alright guys, at this point I just want you to keep in mind this cylinder head was not cleaned whatsoever. The combustion chamber is just filthy. It is dirty. There's a lot of contamination and soot build up on here, deposits from, you know, all the years and mileage this motor was working. Again, this isn't a part of an abandoned motor. We do not know how much miles it had. We do not know why it was taken out, left in the garage and abandoned. I did not clean the seats. I did not do anything. So keep in mind, even if this test is not perfect at this point and we do have some leaks, you know, once we clean this thing up, get it square, it might be a different result. But anyway, at this point we got the spark plugs in the cylinders, so technically this area right here should be sealed. And again, we got the warm water ready to be poured in. We're on a flat surface, so let's take a look and let's see if this is any good. All right, here we go. Just fill it up to the top of the cylinder. Right there's perfect. You can see that right there. Next. Kind of went overkill with this bucket here, but it's all good. All right, guys. Alright, so at this point, cylinder 3, we are getting a leak here from the intake side. You can see it pouring out. quite heavily. Cylinder 1 looks clean, cylinder 2 looks clean, cylinder 4 looks clean. Right over there, you see that leak. Okay. Coming down to that exhaust side. Coming over to that exhaust side, cylinder 4 has a small leak in it. We can see some fluid coming out right over there. It's actually a very slow leak because it's not pushing out. Cylinder 3 is slowly losing some of that water through that intake leak on the intake valve. Alright guys, the next thing you could do, you could take some compressed air and actually blow it into the cylinder exits. So right here we're on the intake side. We're gonna blow it in here. You don't want to blow it too hard because that's gonna pretty much force the valve to open. You want to just like 50% air pressure. See, because if you go too much, you force the air directly on the valve, look what happens. So, you know, I think it's still a good seating valve. I think it's just that pressure pushing the valve open a little bit, but 50% looks pretty good. Let's check the next one. You know, tiny leaks here and there. Next one. This is where the intake valve is leaking again. Let's look at the air escaping here. This is a big one, guys. Look at that. Big leak right over here. So clearly you guys see the difference between just checking for leaks using the gravity method and checking for leaks using compressed air. You actually can see the weak points. Now we're gonna go on the exhaust side, and again the exhaust side that's leaking is right here, cylinder 4. Let's check the other ones out with air pressure. And here's the bad one. You can see it instantly. Huge gap. Yep. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully this gave you some information that you were looking for. Clearly you can see this is a cheap alternative to taking it to a shop to check out what's wrong. The water method is pretty good at finding bigger problems. Again, the small leaks in some of the valves with the compressed air, I'm not too worried about it. There are ways to kind of lap the valves into the head so they seal better, and we'll probably do that once we clean off the head, and we'll probably lap it, and I'll explain that as we go along. If you guys don't know what that is, I just learned it myself. So right now, the most important thing is that valves are not damaged, they're not chipped. So I'm pretty happy with how the valves are looking and how the head is looking so far. Again, when the weather gets warmer, we can get the hose out. We're gonna have to degrease the whole thing. We're gonna have to clean off the head gasket material, and obviously we do have to let me take this off. We do have to find a way to remove those valve springs and retainers, because of right now I have no tools. So we are gonna try to mock something up, ghetto of course, at no expense to us. We're gonna try to figure it out so we can get those out. We can finally clean that head off. So slowly but surely we are making some progress. And if you guys like this content, if you are interested in seeing a GM Ecotech L61 specifically being rebuilt, reassembled, cleaned, dissected, trying to see what's wrong with the abandoned motor, make sure you hit that subscribe button and keep watching the future content. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Peace.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true, but the world is pretty cold. You might need a sweater too. I'ma put a ride on ya. Kid from California, trying to make it in life. In school they never taught ya. Dreams of my